Before we begin, I want to invite you to take a breath with me. Not just any breath, but a conscious one. Inhale and exhale. That breath is a reminder you're alive, and that means the story is not over. Now, I know many of you came here tonight with questions, deep questions. Maybe you're asking, why did this happen to me? Why did I lose what I loved? Why the betrayal? Why the illness? Why the silence from above when I needed an answer the most? We all carry our stories and our pain. But here's what I want you to consider. Your pain is not the enemy. In fact, what if your pain is a portal? What if, rather than punishment, it is a passageway? You see, when we experience emotional pain, neurological pain, spiritual pain, it disrupts the familiar. It shatters the predictable patterns of our lives. The brain's natural reaction is to cling to what it knows. It loops, it rehearses the past, it survives, but surviving is not the same as living. That pain is not just there to break you, it's there to awaken you. Neurologically, pain stimulates growth. Emotionally, it can force us into truth. Spiritually, it can realign our inner compass with something far greater than our ego, far deeper than our fear. There is a divine intelligence that orchestrates life not from a place of punishment, but purpose. Not chaos, but coherence. Imagine for a moment that your pain was custom, designed to unlock something inside you, a deeper level of love, a higher frequency of compassion, a resilience so fierce that fear no longer commands you. You are not your trauma, you are not your diagnosis, you are not the mistakes or the loss. You are the awareness having that experience. And when we stop identifying with the wound and start identifying with the soul navigating it, the pain becomes fuel for transformation. Now, let me share something crucial. The moment you change your internal state emotionally, energetically you start altering the electromagnetic field around your body. You are literally broadcasting a new signal to the field. And that field, that divine matrix, is always listening. So when you transmute your pain into purpose, your suffering into surrender, your story into strength, you send out a different signal. You become a different person. And the future responds accordingly. But here's the paradox. You don't need to know the why of your pain to walk in, the how of your healing. The meaning often comes after the movement. First, you trust. Then you transform, and maybe, just maybe, the purpose of your pain was never to destroy you, but to dismantle the version of you that no longer served the life you were born to create. Tonight, I'm not asking you to forget your pain. I'm asking you to feel it differently, to no longer fear it, but to face it and find the divine intelligence within it. God doesn't waste pain, not a single tear, not a single moment. It all becomes part of the sacred architecture of who you're becoming. So the question is no longer, why did this happen to me? The question is, what is being born in me because of this? Pain is not the enemy, it's a portal to transformation. Most of us have been conditioned to view pain as something purely negative, something to be avoided, suppressed, or medicated away. But pain in its rawest form is feedback. It's a signal that something is shifting, something is breaking open. When we hurt emotionally, mentally, or physically, what's really happening is that we're being invited to pay attention, not to the discomfort alone, but to what the discomfort is trying to reveal. Pain has the unique power to dissolve illusions. It strips away the distractions and masks we wear. In the presence of real pain, pretense collapses. What remains is truth, and truth, however uncomfortable, is the starting point of all transformation. Pain forces us inward, and it's within that internal space, uncomfortable as it may be, that something new can emerge. A deeper awareness, a greater strength, or a completely new way of being. If we allow it, pain can interrupt our patterns and routines long enough to open a door that would otherwise remain closed. On a biological level, emotional pain activates parts of the brain responsible for memory, attention, and survival. This makes us hyper-aware, more focused. In that heightened state, we can choose to redirect our attention, to shift from identifying with the pain to observing it. This shift in perception is the beginning of liberation. It's in this space that we stop being victims of our experiences and begin to become conscious creators of our lives. We stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and begin to explore, "What is this trying to awaken in me?" Pain, then, isn't just something to survive, it's something to learn from. It becomes the raw material for growth, clarity, and ultimately transformation. Your pain carries a divine purpose unique to your journey. Every experience you go through is part of a larger pattern, an intricate design that's not always visible from where you stand. Pain often feels random or cruel in the moment, but when we zoom out, when we look through a spiritual lens, it begins to take on a different texture. There is an intelligence beneath the surface of life, and that intelligence doesn't operate by accident. The challenges you've faced, the losses you've endured, and the heartbreaks you've carried are not without meaning. They are part of a larger unfolding that is sculpting something within you that could not be built any other way. You are not here by mistake, and neither is your suffering. There is a reason it found you the way it did. Not to punish, but to prepare. Not to break you, but to initiate you into a version of yourself that only difficulty can summon. What you're experiencing may not be fair by human standards, but it is often necessary by divine standards, because the path you are on requires depth, compassion, and strength that comfort alone cannot produce. What's painful now may one day be recognized as sacred, because it carved space in you for more light to enter. It developed a capacity within you to hold more wisdom, to offer more understanding, to live with more authenticity. This is not a generic process, it's highly personal. Your lessons, your timing, your evolution, they are all customized for your soul. Pain is the language that often speaks when nothing else gets through. And in that language, there is a divine purpose encoded, an invitation to rise, to remember who you are, and to walk your path not in spite of your pain, but because of its suffering disrupts the familiar to awaken the soul. When life is predictable and comfortable, we tend to move through it unconsciously, repeating patterns and routines without questioning their alignment with who we truly are. Comfort has a way of lulling us into forgetfulness. It creates an illusion of control, of permanence, of safety, but when suffering enters, whether through loss, betrayal, illness, or failure, it interrupts that illusion. It shakes the foundation we've built our identity upon and forces us to face what's real. This disruption is not chaos without purpose. It is a sacred disturbance meant to jar us out of complacency. The pain cracks open the surface of our life so that something deeper can emerge. In those moments when everything familiar is stripped away, we're left with nothing to hold onto but ourselves. And that's often when we begin to remember who we truly are, beyond the roles we play, beyond the masks we wear, beyond the stories we've told ourselves. The soul does not evolve through ease alone, it awakens through contrast. When we are pushed into the unknown, the discomfort becomes fertile ground for inner revelation. Questions we never thought to ask suddenly rise to the surface. Beliefs we've never challenged begin to feel too small. Desires we've ignored begin to call out more loudly. It's in the disruption that clarity begins to form, because the soul is finally given a voice. The old structures must collapse so that something more aligned can take their place. Suffering serves as the fire that burns away what no longer serves us. It exposes the parts of our life that have been built on false foundations and invites us to rebuild, not from fear or habit, but from truth and conscious intention. You are not your pain, you are the awareness experiencing it. One of the greatest traps we fall into when we're hurting is identification. We start to believe that because we feel broken, we are broken. Because we've been wounded, we are the wound. Pain becomes not just an experience, but an identity. But the truth is, the deepest part of you, the part that witnesses your thoughts, your emotions, your struggles, remains untouched. That is your awareness, your consciousness, your soul, and it is not defined by the storms it passes through. When you take a step back and observe your pain, rather than drown in it, You activate the part of yourself that is eternal, the part that was never lost, never damaged, never afraid. That awareness has the power to hold space for even the most intense suffering without becoming it. It allows you to move from "I am in pain" to "I am noticing pain," and that shift creates space for healing, space for compassion, space for transformation. Awareness is not passive. It's the most powerful force you have because it allows you to interrupt the automatic reactions that keep you stuck. It allows you to respond rather than react, to choose a new thought, a new meaning, a new way forward. And in that space of choosing, healing begins. You don't have to deny what you feel. You simply have to stop believing that what you feel is all that you are. The body may ache, the heart may grieve, the mind may spiral, but awareness pure, quiet, and steady remains. And when you rest in that awareness, even momentarily, you remember your wholeness. No matter what has happened to you or through you, emotional pain stimulates neurological and spiritual growth. When we encounter deep emotional pain, the body and brain enter a heightened state of sensitivity and awareness. From a neurological perspective, pain activates neural pathways that are responsible for memory, attention, and emotional processing. The brain begins rewiring itself in response to what we're feeling. This isn't just a survival mechanism, it's a gateway to adaptation and expansion. Pain becomes a catalyst for internal change. It forces us to question old beliefs, reevaluate what we value, and shift our perception of who we are and what life means. In the realm of spirit, pain works in a similar way. It shakes us loose from the surface layers of our identity. It pulls us into the depth of our being where real transformation happens. The soul doesn't evolve through perfection, it evolves through pressure. Just like a muscle tears before it grows stronger, the heart breaks open to make room for more wisdom, more empathy, more connection. The spiritual journey is not about escaping pain, but learning to relate to it in a new way. Pain becomes the teacher, the initiator, the sacred messenger. The human nervous system is not static. It is plastic, moldable, and influenced by our experiences. When we sit with pain consciously, when we allow ourselves to feel it, reflect on it, and move through it, we are actively reshaping the brain and expanding the capacity of the heart. The emotional circuits that were once wired for fear and protection begin to open toward trust and compassion. This is not theoretical, it's physiological. The intersection of emotional suffering and mindful awareness creates the very conditions in which growth occurs. Not only do we change how we feel, we change who we are at the most fundamental level. Changing your internal state changes your external reality. Most people try to alter their lives by controlling what's outside of them, the circumstances, the people, the outcomes. But true and lasting transformation never begins out there. It begins within. Your thoughts, emotions, beliefs, and energy form the blueprint of your experience. When you hold on to stress, anger, resentment, or fear, your body remains in survival mode, and your perception becomes limited. You start seeing the world not as it is, but as a reflection of your inner state. The outer world responds to the vibration you emit. When your internal environment is dominated by past wounds and limiting narratives, you unintentionally recreate the same patterns over and over again. But when you consciously shift your emotional and energetic state through awareness, intention, and aligned action, you begin to broadcast a new frequency. And because the universe or the field is responsive, that frequency begins to draw different people, situations, and possibilities into your life. This shift doesn't require perfection, it requires presence. It requires the willingness to feel something new, even if it's uncomfortable at first. Choosing peace over anxiety, trust over doubt, gratitude over scarcity, these are not just emotional shifts. They are energetic recalibrations. And with time, your brain, your body, and your life begin to organize around that new state. Your internal world is your point of power. You don't have to wait for the outer world to change in order to feel better. You can feel better now, and by doing so, you change what the outer world reflects back to you. Reality becomes more coherent, more aligned, more responsive to who you are becoming rather than who you've been. It all begins with the choice to change from the inside out. The field responds to the energy you broadcast. Every thought you think and every emotion you feel emits a signal. This signal is not invisible to the universe, it's a frequency, a vibration that interacts with what some call the quantum field or the unified field of intelligence. This field doesn't judge, it doesn't discriminate, and it doesn't filter. It mirrors. Whatever energy you project, whether consciously or unconsciously, is what you begin to attract and shape into form. Your life is not simply happening to you, it is unfolding in response to you. When you consistently radiate emotions like fear, guilt, anger, or unworthiness, those low-frequency states influence the information you send out. You begin to live in a feedback loop that reinforces the same experiences, the same struggles, the same limitations. But when you shift your internal energy even slightly, the feedback from the field begins to shift as well. Elevating your emotional state to gratitude, love, compassion, or possibility changes the signal. And because the field is responsive, your reality begins to reorder itself to match that elevated state. This is not wishful thinking or blind optimism. It's a biological and energetic reality. Your heart has an electromagnetic field that is measurable and influential. Your brain generates signals that sync with your emotional state. When both are in coherence, meaning your thoughts and feelings are aligned, you create a powerful broadcast that the field responds to with clarity and precision. You are not separate from the intelligence that governs life. You are part of it, communicating with it every second through your energy. If you want to change what you see, you must first change what you send. The signal you emit becomes the architecture of your future experiences. You don't need all the answers to start healing. Often, we get stuck waiting for clarity, for the perfect understanding of why things happened or how everything will work out. We believe that healing is contingent on solving the mystery of our pain or fully making sense of our suffering. But the truth is, healing begins not with answers, but with openness, with the willingness to move forward even in uncertainty. Waiting for all the pieces to fall into place only keeps us trapped in the cycle of confusion and resistance. Healing is a process of unfolding, not a fixed destination. It starts the moment you choose to engage with your pain instead of avoiding it, the moment you allow yourself to feel what's uncomfortable without judgment or fear. It's the decision to trust the journey even when the path isn't clear. This willingness creates a shift inside, signaling to your body, mind, and spirit that you're ready to change, to grow, and to release what no longer serves you. You don't have to fully understand why you are hurting to begin reclaiming your power. Sometimes the act of showing up for yourself, of holding your own hand through the darkness, is the greatest step you can take. The meaning behind the pain often reveals itself gradually, layer by layer, as you move through the healing process. Each moment of courage, each small choice towards self, love, and acceptance opens a door to deeper insight and transformation. Healing doesn't require perfection or complete knowledge, it requires presence. When you bring awareness and kindness to your experience, you begin to rewrite the story you tell yourself. The unknown becomes less frightening, and the pain begins to lose its grip. It's not about having all the answers before you start, it's about starting anyway, trusting that the answers will come in their own time. Pain often precedes purpose and clarity. In the moments when life feels the most uncertain, when everything familiar falls apart, something deeper begins to emerge. Pain strips away distraction and noise. It narrows your focus, collapses the unnecessary, and brings you face to face with what truly matters. When everything else is removed, you begin to see what was hidden beneath the surface all along. Often, that's where purpose lives, not in comfort, but in the broken pieces, the raw truth, the questions without answers. There is something about pain that makes us honest. It reveals our inner landscape. It unmasks the parts of us we've ignored, buried, or denied. It forces us to look at what we've become and ask whether it aligns with who we're meant to be. Clarity does not often come in calm waters. It comes in the storm, when the illusions no longer hold and the old stories no longer satisfy, it is through that chaos that something more authentic rises. Purpose is rarely born out of ease. It usually begins as a whisper in the aftermath of pain, a feeling that maybe there's something more, something worth building, something worth becoming. That whisper grows louder as we begin to integrate the lessons of our suffering. What once felt like meaningless struggle starts to form into insight, and that insight begins to point us toward direction. The pain doesn't define us, but it does refine us. The clarity that comes after pain isn't intellectual. It's embodied. You know it in your bones, you feel it in your choices, you start walking differently, speaking differently, living differently. The pain that once felt senseless becomes the ground where your purpose begins to grow. And the fog that once blinded you begins to clear. God never wastes pain, it becomes sacred architecture. Every moment of suffering, every tear shed, every heartbreak endured is woven into the fabric of your being with purpose and intention. Pain is not random damage or cosmic punishment. It is a vital part of the design that shapes who you are becoming. Like an artist chiseling stone or a builder laying foundations, the divine uses pain to sculpt, strengthen, and prepare you for something greater than what you have known before. When you look at your pain through this lens, it no longer feels like something to fear or avoid. Instead, it becomes a sacred material, raw and powerful, that builds resilience, compassion, and wisdom. Pain creates cracks where light can enter. It creates spaces where new growth can take root. What once seemed like destruction becomes the architecture of your transformation. This sacred architecture is unique to you. No one else carries your exact story or your precise combination of wounds and gifts. Your pain is the blueprint for your own awakening and healing. It teaches you lessons that cannot be learned through comfort or ease. It pushes you to evolve, to expand your heart, and to deepen your connection to the divine source within and beyond you. Pain also fosters empathy. When you've walked through suffering, you gain an understanding that cannot be taught in any other way. You become a beacon for others navigating their own pain, able to offer presence and compassion from a place of authentic knowing. This shared human experience creates connection, and connection is the foundation of healing on a collective scale. In this sacred design, every challenge is purposeful. Every struggle is a step in the unfolding of your soul's journey. Pain is not wasted. It is invested. It is the divine energy working through you to build something timeless and true.